Hi there. Welcome back to English 102. Thanks for watching this video. I am hoping that it will provide you an important overview of the rest of the work we're going to do together during this term. Because, believe it or not, this week you're going to work to identify a topic that you will spend the rest of this term researching. You will write 3 papers about this topic. This always seems to bowl students over, right? Because many of you have been trained that everything you will ever write in college is a 5-paragraph essay. And they think, how does he expect me to write 3 5-paragraph essays about the same thing? Here's my answer to that. I don't believe in 5-paragraph essays. You will never find a career that asks you to write for one, and there are very few other college classes that expect them. It is basically a teaching tool that got a bit out of control. And you'll see as you do your research and you read lots of different articles from me, even the opinionated articles that you read, op-eds, some of them are, and indeed you'll need to find an opinionated article for your next paper. Anyhow, none of those are ever going to be 5 paragraphs long. They never have 3-pronged thesis statements either, right? And so I'm not interested in having students practice writing techniques that they will never use in real life. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of mine, right? So you will write 3 different papers about the same topic, and they will be papers that call for different kinds of writing, right? So the paper you're going to start working on this week, the initial research findings paper, is going to require informational and analytical writing. That will be followed by later, right, by an annotated bibliography, which will require you to find even more sources and will require all informational writing. The final paper of the semester will be a data commentary, which will require some analytical writing, some informational writing, and also some academic commentary, which is very different and more formal than the persuasive writing that you're used to in 5-paragraph essays. So please kind of toss those ideas out outside of what you've learned about grammar and sentence structure from that approach. Anyhow, enough of my philosophy on writing. Let's go ahead and start talking about let's give you I gave you an overview for the rest of the term. Let's give you an overview for this week now, right? So the first thing that you're going to get to do is you're going to get to vote on which of the main topics you are most interested in, all right? These include plastic waste, social media, and the opioid crisis. Okay, you can rank the ones you're interested in. I do try to give everyone their first choice, but for group work to go well, I need to have roughly the same number of people in each group, right? And you'll see there's an assignment that explains how to submit the topic choice, and it also includes some materials to help you make your choice. Okay, don't worry, you'll be working with other people, but the papers you write will be your own, right? There are no group projects. However, if you work with the same people over the rest of the semester and you are all working on similar subtopics under that big, broad main topic like social media, you will find that you learn a great deal more, you get better feedback from people in peer reviews, and it leads to better outcomes. In fact, I could show you, I could go back in time and show you classes that I taught 5 years ago in 102 where I didn't do group work and I let people write about whatever topics they wanted, and I had a lot more people fail back then. Right? So I like this approach because students learn more and they write better with this approach. Anyhow, so the first step is to vote for which main topic you're most interested in. We can't stop there though, right? You can't write an academic paper, not a real one anyway, about social media in general. It's far too broad of a topic. And if you read real writing about social media, whether it's opinionated articles or whether it's academic journals, academic journal articles, which we'll talk more down the road, it is not about social media in general. It is about specific subtopics like, are social media platforms doing enough to protect our privacy? Can does social media, can it have a negative effect on users' moods? These are two very different questions, and indeed they're examples of two different subtopics that you might end up working on. Now, this is where we get into the assignment, right? So I'll go ahead and now you can see it. I've just finished editing this, right? And so by the time you watch this video, it'll be all published in there. So the way the initial research findings paper works is the first task is to find an opinionated article about your main topic. Typically, it's going to be an op-ed, all right, although there are plenty of great opinionated articles you could use in the library that are not technically op-eds. Op-eds are a popular form of written rhetoric that you will find in any major newspaper, just like the political cartoons that you wrote about in the last paper. The op-ed is what helps you focus in on a specific subtopic because, as I mentioned, no one writes op-eds about plastic waste in general, right? They might write an op-ed about whether we should ban plastic straws or not. They might write an op-ed about the pros of banning plastic bags, for example. They might write about whether we should put limits on how much plastic industry produces, right? Again, these are subtopics, and the op-ed is going to help you identify that, right? And there's materials to help you locate an op-ed either in the library databases or on the internet. Now, this is an important thing we need to talk about, and I know you're going to read the instructions yourself. Don't worry, I'm not going to waste your time and go through all these. But do you see here how it says you have to use these headings to organize the paper? Okay, you really have to do that. Okay, because as you'll see when we get into talking about academic journal articles in future papers, you'll see that academic writing often requires the use of headings. The folks who are using APA have already run into this. They see it in their template, right? And so you have to get accustomed to using headings and understanding what they're for. And generally, I get maybe one student a semester who doesn't use the headings. They write the paper like a 5-paragraph essay, and it fails. Because if you don't have the headings, you're not doing the things you need to do in each heading, right? The cool thing about headings too is they let you jump around in terms of how you draft the thing. I know most of us are trained to begin at the beginning, but really the best place to start this is to find the op-ed and to work on analyzing it, and that's how the materials are set up this week, right? Once you found the op-ed, you're on your subtopic, you understand it, you're explaining or you're analyzing the op-ed, then you can delve into learning more, not just about the main topic, right? Because we don't want that kind of broad general writing. We're interested in the subtopic that the op-ed invokes. I'll give you yet another example, right? If you're assigned to the opioid crisis book group, you might find an op-ed by someone who believes that one way that we can address the opioid crisis is to have more needle exchanges, right? I've read op-eds like that. And of course, if you're watching this right now, many of you might not even know what that is, right? So, that's what the background section's for, right? You're learning more about that subtopic on your own. You're delivering that information to the reader so that your analysis of the op-ed makes more sense to them. Okay, so it is a bit of a complicated assignment because there's different things you have to do in different sections. The analysis of op-ed section requires you to find an opinionated article and analyze it. You've had some practice with analytical writing in the last paper, and I gave you some very focused prompts. If you answer all these and you understand what analytical writing from the last paper is, and you have made sure to choose an article that is opinionated and not informational, you'll do fine in that section. Okay. The background section is all informational. It's all facts. It should have lots of citations, important facts that you need to share with your reader from source material. This is very similar to how the first paragraph, the rhetorical analysis paper, gave your reader some background information on what happened in Flint, right? So this is just a more elaborate version of that because you're going to need at least 2 paragraphs, maybe 3, depending on your subtopic, depending on how you write. All right. The questions to guide further research section, don't make it harder than it has to be. Look at the sample papers, right? This is what you do after you've written the whole paper. You've read the heck out of 3 sources, right? The op-ed and the 2 informational sources you need for the background section. You've read the heck out of all those. You've written the analysis section, then you wrote the background section. You've learned so much. What are you still wondering? What have you still not figured out? Right? Because you can guess I'm going to expect you to read more sources about this, right? So those questions to guide further research are just questions that you're hoping to use other sources to answer. Right, again, the sample papers have some nice examples of that. I do not yet have a sample paper for each topic, but I'm getting there. Hopefully, maybe one of you can provide me with one. If you write a grade A paper for me, I can, and you give me your permission, I can use it in a future class. I think we'll probably try to end there. Like I mentioned, the hope was to give you an overview of the rest of the term, right? The 3 papers that you'll write. And then I'm also giving you an overview of the first of those 3 papers, the initial research findings paper. Try to give you an idea of what the paper is supposed to do. A lot of the other materials over the next 2 weeks are designed to help you find credible sources to use. Okay, the credible piece is important. There's a lot of materials that have to do with CRAP testing because a big part of 102 is learning how to do effective source discovery. I allow students to use sources they find on Google, but you can't trust everything you find on Google. And even sometimes you will find sources that are accurate. They're not outright lies, but they're not at the level you want to use for an academic reader. In fact, they hurt your credibility when you use sources like this, right? And so you'll see there's an activity about that has to do with level this week or next. Anyhow, that's all I got. As always, shoot a message over to me if you have questions after reviewing the module contents, or stop by office hours. Take care now.